Miss Wonderly murmured,
"Thank you."
Softly as before, as she sat down on the edge of the chair's wooden seat. Spade sank into his swivel chair and made a quarter turn to face her, smiled politely. He smiled without separating his lips. All the B's in his face grew longer.
You just eat?
The tippity-tap-tap and the thin bell and the muffled whirl of Effie Perrine's typewriter came through the closed door. Somewhere in the neighboring office, a power-driven machine vibrated dully. On Spade's desk, a limp cigarette smoldered in a brass tray filled with the remains of limp cigarettes. Ragged gray flecks of cigarette ash dotted the yellow top of the desk and the green blotter and the papers that were there. A buff-curtain window, 8 or 10 inches open, let in from the front a current of air, faintly scented with ammonia. The eyes on the desk twitched and crawled in the current. Miss Wonderly watched the gray flecks twitch and crawl. Her eyes were uneasy. She sat on the edge of the chair. Her feet were flat on the floor as if she were about to rise. Her hands, in dark gloves, clasped a flat, dark handbag in her lap. Spade rocked back in his chair and asked,
"Now what can I do for you, Miss Wonderly?"
She caught her breath and looked at him. She swallowed and said hurriedly,
"Could you? That is..."
Then she tortured her lower lip with glistening teeth and said nothing. Only her dark eyes spoke now, pleading. Spade smiled and nodded as if he understood her, but pleasantly, as if nothing serious was involved. He said,
"Suppose you tell me about it from the beginning, and then we'll know what needs doing. Better begin as far back as you can."
"That was in New York."
"Yes?"
"I don't know where she met him. I don't know where in New York. She's 5 years younger than I, only 17, and we didn't have the same friends. I don't suppose we've ever been as close as sisters should be. Mama and Papa are in Europe. It would kill them. I've got to get her back before they come home."
"Yes," he said.
"They're coming home. They're coming home first of the month."
Spade's eyes brightened.
"Then we've 2 weeks,"
he said.
I didn't know what she had done until her letter came. I was frantic.
Her lips trembled. Her hands smashed the dark handbag in her lap.
I was too afraid she'd done something like this to go to the police. And the fear that something had happened to her kept urging me to go. There wasn't anyone I could go to for advice. I didn't know what to do. What could I do?
Nothing, of course, Spade said.
But then her letter came.
Yes, and I sent her a telegram asking her to come home. I sent it to general delivery here. That was the only address she gave me. I waited a whole week, but no answer came. Not another word from her. And Mama and Papa's return was drawing nearer and nearer. So I came to San Francisco to get her. I wrote her I was coming. I shouldn't have done that, should I?
"Maybe not. It's not always easy to know what to do. You haven't found her?"
No, I haven't. I wrote her that I would go to the St. Mark, and I begged her to come and let me talk to her, even if she didn't intend to go home with me. But she didn't come. I waited 3 days, and she didn't come. Didn't even send a message of any sort.
Spade nodded his blonde Satan's head, frowned sympathetically, and tightened his lips together.
It was horrible.
Miss Wonderly said, trying to smile.
I couldn't sit there like that, waiting, not knowing what had happened to her, what might be happening to her.
She stopped trying to smile. She shuddered.
The only address I had was general delivery. I wrote her another letter, and yesterday afternoon I went to the post office. I stayed there until after dark, but I didn't see her. I went there again this morning. I still didn't see Corinne, but I saw Floyd Thursby.
Spade nodded again. His frown went away. In its place came a look of sharp attentiveness.
He wouldn't tell me where Corinne was.
She went on, hopelessly.
He He wouldn't tell me anything except that she was well and happy. How can I believe that? That is what he would tell me anyhow, isn't it?
Words.
Sure,
Sure.
Spade said.
But it might be true.
Spade agreed.
But it might be true.
I hope it is. I do hope it is.
She exclaimed.
But I can't go back home like this without having seen her, without even having talked to her on the phone. He wouldn't take me to her. He said that she didn't want to see me. I can't believe that. He promised to tell her he had seen me and to bring her to see me if she would come this evening to the hotel. He said he knew she wouldn't. He promised to come himself if she wouldn't.
She broke off with a startled hand to her mouth as the door opened. The man who opened the door came in a step, said,
Oh, excuse me.
hastily took his brown hat from his head and backed out.
It's all right, Miles.
Spade told him.
Come in, Miss Wonderly. This is Mr. Archer, my partner. Partner?
Miles Archer came into the office again, shutting the door behind him, ducking his head and smiling at Miss Wonderly, making a vaguely polite gesture with his hat in his hand. He was of medium height, solidly built, wide in the shoulders, thick in the neck with a jovial, heavy jowl, red face, and some gray in his close, trim hair. Nice. He was apparently as many years past 40 as Spade was past 30. Spade said,
Miss Wonderly's sister ran away from New York with a fellow named Floyd Thursby. They're here. Miss Wonderly has seen Thursby and has a date with him tonight. Maybe he'll bring the sister with him. The chances are he won't. Miss Wonderly wants us to find the sister and get her right away from him and back home.
He looked at Miss Wonderly. The embarrassment that had gradually been driven away by Spade's ingratiating smiles and nods and assurances was pinkering her face again. She looked at the bag in her lap, picked nervously at it with her gloved finger. Spade winked at his partner. Miles Archer came forward to stand at the corner of his desk. While the girl looked at her bag, he looked at her. His little brown eyes ran their bold, appraising glaze from her lowered face to her feet and back up to her face again. Then he looked at Spade and made a silent, whistling mouth of appreciation. Spade lifted two fingers from the arm of his chair in a brief, warning gesture and said,
We shouldn't have any trouble with it. It's simply a matter of having a man at the hotel this evening to shadow him away when he leaves, and shadow him until he leads us to your sister. If she comes with him and you persuade her to return with you, so much the better. Otherwise, if she doesn't want to leave him after we've found her, well, we'll find a way of managing that.
Archer said,
Yeah.
his voice was, oh, that's great. His voice was heavy, coarse. Miss Wonderly, looking up at Spade quickly, puckering her forehead between her eyebrows.
Oh, you must be careful.
Her voice shook a little, and her lips shaped the words with nervous jerkiness.
I'm deathly afraid of him, of what he might do. She's so young, and his bringing her from New York is such a serious... Mightn't he do something to her?
Spade smiled and parted the arms of his chair.
Just leave that to us,
He said,
We'll know how to handle him.
But mightn't he...
She insisted.
There's always a chance.
Spade nodded judiciously. Spade, whatever his name is.
But you can trust us to take care of that.
I do trust you,
She said earnestly.
but I want you to know that he's a dangerous man. I honestly don't think he'd stop at anything. I don't believe he'd hesitate to kill Corinne if he thought it would save him. Mightn't he do that?
You didn't, you?
I told him that all I wanted was to get her home before Mama and Papa came, so they'd never know what she had done. I promised him I'd never say a word to them about it if he helped me. But if he didn't help Papa, Papa would certainly see that he was punished. I don't suppose he believed me altogether.
Can he cover up by marrying her?
The girl blushed and